Welcome to AP and DP, SEC, ACC, conference coverage. I'm AP Stedham, multimedia personality from LA, Lower Alabama, along with my co-host, DP Doug Parrish, extraordinary defensive back from the University of California. Hey, Doug, we're in the 9th week of college football. It's been exciting.
I'm telling you, AP, like we said last week, man, you blink. I mean, it's Thursday night, Friday night, and big day Saturday for some good college football. Super excited to be with you today, man.
Oh, yeah. We're looking forward to another great week of football in the SEC. Doug, we just have 6 games this week in the SEC. So we're going to start out with our very first game, Arkansas versus Mississippi State. Those are 2 teams, both coming off a loss, Doug. You know, Arkansas, Doug, they really underperformed at home against LSU. They lost 34-10. We know that Bobby Petrino and that trio offense, Armstrong, wide receiver, Jackson, running back, Taylor Green. We always like them to start the season. Jaquindon Jackson, he's doubtful for this game, the running back from Texas. He's a star in Texas, so he's doubtful for this week. So Arkansas is a 6.5-point favorite versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State coming off the loss of Texas A&M 34-24. So Arkansas, Doug, just some notable figures with them is an inverse number. Doug, you know, their total offense is 22nd. Very high, okay? Very high, top 25 in the country. But, Doug, their scoring offense is 61. So how does that happen? Yeah. That happens because their turnover margin is 109th in the country, minus 0.71. So those turnovers will flip those numbers, the total offense, and make you score less, which must drive coaches, assistant coaches, fans crazy. But anyway, so their pass defense is 70th. I bring up that number because those are glaring numbers in the rankings. Their scoring defense is 42nd. So Mississippi State, their rush offense, Doug, 100. Their rush defense, we're going the other side of the football, 114. Pass defense, 111. Total defense, Doug, 122. So they're struggling on that side of the ball. The sacks, 131. Tackles for loss, 129. But Doug, I think they found somebody at the quarterback position. Michael Van Buren Jr. He's a freshman out of the Baltimore area, St. Francis Academy. And, you know, Blake Shapen was the transfer from Baylor, but Michael has taken over these last 2 or 3 games. They've been scoring at a better clip, but defensively, Doug, it's hard to hide those deficiencies. So they're having trouble. But it's a home game. They're a 6.5-point underdog. The Bulldogs are an underdog. So, but in Arkansas, I think Arkansas are probably going to get back on track offensively. We'll see if they have some injuries, but we shall see. So we're going to go to the next ball game, and that is Auburn versus 49th total offense, scoring offense 71, 71, Doug. So you're in the top 50, but you can't score worth a darn because you're giving the ball over. They're even worse than Arkansas. They're 126th in the nation, Doug, minus 1.43. So Arkansas, they had the double-digit lead against Mizzou on the road, end up losing the game 21-17. Oh, Doug, I just want to backtrack real quick. The series between Mississippi State and Arkansas leads 18-15-1. Just backtrack to that.
Oh, but, sure.
Yeah, going forward now to the Auburn versus Kentucky series. Auburn leads 27-6 and 1 tie. But anyway, Auburn, Doug, all year long, they've come very close. Hugh Freeze is very frustrated. It just seems that they can't make the plays at the end or sustain a lead, and they're turning the ball over so much. So they're Kentucky is actually a 2.5-point favorite in Lexington, and Kentucky had a really bad game. You know, Doug, defensively, as I told you, they had the 2 best games I've seen, I think. Holding Georgia to 13, Ole Miss to 17 on the road. They gave up 48 total to Florida last week in Gainesville. That was uncharacteristic of Kentucky. We know they got that front 4.
Yeah,
I think I don't know. I think at times they could be the best in the SEC, that front four, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But they lost to Florida 48-20. So their rush offense is a 78 pass offense, 121 total offense. Kentucky, they have struggled all year, Doug. 15 total offense. Their scoring offense, their scoring defense is 28. They're very good on that side. 22, the rush defense, 22, the pass defense. Total defense is 12th in the country, though. Okay, and they gave it that 48 last week, so that's why uncharacteristic. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm thinking that Kentucky wins this in a close one, Doug. So that's my first two. That's my first two in the SEC. What do we have in the ACC?
AP, thank you for tossing it over to me. It is going to be a great week of college football. Boston College is playing Louisville. And look, after jumping out to a 4-1 start, BC has dropped 2 straight, AP. After the bye week, they seem to have gotten some momentum, but unfortunately, they're running up against a top-ranked team in Louisville. The big theme, I think, is going to be the ground game. Now, there's 2 dynamic running backs playing for each team. You got Isaac Brown. He's rushing for a huge performance against the struggling BC defense, and Thomas Castellanos. And he's expected to have 25-plus carries targeting Louisville's defensive weaknesses. So the defensive strategies for both of these teams are going to be paramount. They're going to have to come out, and they're going to have to show some heart, show some toughness. But, you got the third-year quarterback. Actually, he's a 6-year quarterback, but he's been bouncing around at 3 different teams, and he's going to help head coach Jeff Brom, get this thing back on track. So the Cardinals are passing for 298 yards per game, AP, and that's good for 14th in the nation.
14th in the nation, that's a big number.
Yeah. And the quarterback, Tyler Shaw, he's already shown that he can do it. He's eclipsed the 2,000-yard mark already. He's thrown for 18 touchdowns. He only has 3 interceptions. AP, the outcome will actually be hinged on the turnovers and the special teams during this game. I'm looking for both teams to step up and make some game-changing plays on this weekend. So my prediction is that Boston College could emerge as one of the biggest games that they have played throughout this season and exploit the defense of Louisville. Now, my second game is Cal versus Oregon. Now, this is interesting, right? This game is pretty interesting. These 2 teams played in the Pac-12. Guess who's still in the Pac-12?
Oregon State, and it's still in the Pac-12.
Yeah. So that's a pretty interesting situation. Cal has migrated over to the ACC. Justin Wilcox is looking to get his team back on track. They've lost 4 games in a row. Oh, my gosh, nail biters, man. I mean, just really excruciating, painful losses. And a lot of people are looking for him to get the axe out of Cal Berkeley here pretty soon if he doesn't turn this team around. It's about entrusting your team to get out there, all phases of the game, special teams, offense, defense, encouraging the senior leadership on that team to uplift the younger players, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the players, some of those captains in that locker room, to say, hey, we want to step up to the plate. We don't want to look like we're the bottom of the ACC. We're going to take pride in what we're doing. We're going to show the world that these California teams and these Pac-12 teams that have gone to these different conferences can play with these big boys in these ACC and SEC conferences. So I'm looking forward to see if Justin Wilcox and Peter Sirmon, the defensive coordinator for Cal, can have his team rearing and ready to go, because I know Peter Sirmon. So, that's one of the bright spots, actually, that I see for Cal Berkeley is their defense. They're like leading the country in takeovers. They have one of the best defensive backs in the country with Noel Williams. He's tied for interceptions in the country right now, AP. So the guy knows how to smell the football and get to the ball and make a break, and he's taken a couple of them to the house. Oh, by the way, he plays kickoff returner, and he can take it to the house there too. So interesting couple of games I have there for you, the AP.
Oh yeah, Doug, I just want to ask, how is the California quarterback? How's he been playing the last 3 or 4 games?
He's one of those tough quarterbacks. He's from Miami, so he knows how to play in tough environments. I think that a lot of this stuff that is going on, that's happening to Cal, we can all say that they're new. Like doing the silent count. Having the offensive linemen stay on sides and not jump off sides, legal procedure, penalties, all of that stuff. It comes from discipline. So I think that, to answer your question, the quarterback from Cal is a tough cookie. And, anytime he gets bumped or bruised, he just bounces back up and get back in there. And that's the sign of a good leader, AP.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the next 2 games I have on the docket and in the SEC. And we're going to be looking at, if I can get the prompt up here. Here we are, Oklahoma versus Ole Miss. Doug, they've only played 1 time, and Ole Miss leads that 0-1, that series actually. And Oklahoma's a team struggling right now. Jackson Arnold was the starter originally. They really moved Dylan Gabriel to Oregon to bring in Jackson Arnold, give him the starting job at quarterback, and he faltered a couple games into the season. He was benched. They brought in Mike Hawkins, the dual threat from Dallas, Texas, the true freshman. Now they're going to go back to Jackson Arnold. And Doug, Oklahoma, I think they've given up the most in the conference sacks. 32 times the quarterback has been horizontal. And their offensive line and their defensive lines, I don't believe they're SEC ready. I was told that before the season. I think that's proved to be true. The defense played pretty well, but the offense was so sluggish. Doug, their total offense in the country, 128. Wow. The passing offense is 116. The rush offense, 114. So they can't rely on either phase of their offense to produce. So the receivers have been out, 4 or 5 receivers at one time. It's been very difficult, and the offensive line has not blocked properly and protected the quarterback. So defensively, their total defense is 32. Like I said, they played fairly well, but they can't overcome being on the field so much. As you know, sacks, they're 4th, tackles for loss 16, they're 38th in the turnover margin of 0.43. Now, Ole Miss, Doug, their scoring offense is 8th. We know that Lane Kiffin, he can put points on the board. Their scoring defense is number 2 in the country. Their sacks is 7, tackles for loss 2, turnover margin, they're tied at 28th at 0.57. They're one of the leaders in the country, Doug. Leaders in the country for explosive plays on offense. Nice. So Oklahoma, not ranked. Ole Miss is 18th ranked. They're a 20.5-point favorite. They're playing at home. You're probably going to see Ole Miss win this ball game because Oklahoma is in disarray. They changed offensive coordinators, which I don't think that's going to do anything because they don't have the people up front to block for your quarterback. Yeah. And so they're getting beat up. And then they haven't opened the holes for the running backs as well. So we're going to move on to the next game.
Okay.
Next game, big ball game, Doug. Big ball game in the SEC. Ooh. Number 8 LSU versus number 14 Texas A&M in College Station. LSU, they're getting better, Doug, especially on defense. We know they can score. They put up 34 points on the road. Held Arkansas at 10. That was the Achilles heel for LSU, their defense improving each week. And I know it depends on the matchups and things, but we realize Arkansas with Bob Petrino, anytime you play his offense, you better be ready defensively. And they were up to the task, allowing just the 10 points. That series, Doug, is 36, 23, and 3 in favor of LSU. Now, LSU's rush offense, Doug, 96, not very good. But their scoring offense is 29th. Their pass offense is 8th. We know that Garrett Nussmeier, Doug, you've been around quarterbacks. They have confidence in the receivers. They will throw the ball if it's a one-on-one matchup, thinking my receiver will jump up in the air, high point it, wrestle it away from the defender. So he's that type of quarterback. Now, LSU's pass defense, 103. But I said they're getting better. So their defense is on the rise. Whit Weeks is an edge rusher, linebacker. He had a good ball game last week against Arkansas. Now, Texas A&M, they're coming off a win over Mississippi State, 34-24. They're a 2.5-point favorite, and they're undefeated in the conference, just as LSU is undefeated in the conference. Both teams with one loss. Their rush offense, they like to move it on the ground. 13th in the country, Doug. Very strong. Pass offense 107, total offense 57, scoring offense 46. Their rush and pass defense, respectively, is 36 and 50. Their total defense and scoring defense is 31 and 19. That's pretty good. 19 scoring defense. Yep. You have to love that. Their interception and sack ratio, pretty good as well. 26 and 34. Tackles for loss 17. Turnover margin 24th at 0.71. So this is going to be a tight ball game. Both people are vying. They're vying to be one of the top two teams in the conference. They're undefeated at this point. 4-0. Texas A&M in the conference. LSU, I believe, is 3-0. So it'll be a tight ball game. A&M with A&M being the 2.5-point favorite. But and Doug, these teams have played many times. Like I said, way before they were both members of the SEC. That used to be a big rival game years ago when LSU was in the SEC and Texas A&M was in the Southwest Conference years ago.
Okay, all right.
So what do we have for the ACC now?
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this team a little bit later, but a team that's a favorite in the ACC right now, AP, is Clemson. Dabo Swinney, we talked about him. He's got his team. He's building it up organically. So they have a bye. Yeah, they have a bye this week. So we're gonna let them slide on by, and we're gonna pick up on Duke versus SMU. Now,
good ball game.
Number 22 in the country. Thanks to our producer Jacob for putting that up on the screen. I tell you right now, I never would have thought that SMU would be 22, but like I said, their head coach, he's very unassuming, he's very humble, but he's a leader, and you can tell that he's got the ear of all of the players in that locker room. Now, they're 6-1, AP, and if I look at my notes here, and they're 11th ranked scoring offense in the country. And so the interesting thing about this game is that Duke has a pretty solid defense. They're 17th ranked in scoring defense. Now, in their previous games, the Mustangs won versus Cardinals, the Stanford Cardinals. They beat them 40-10. And then last time out, the Duke Blue Devils defeated Florida State by a score of 23-16. Now, that is some good momentum for both of these teams. And they've been scoring. Like, SMU's been scoring like 50 points a game, man. It was like, what's going on with these guys? And they are on a winning streak, man. You know that kid, Kevin Jennings, that I talk about all the time?
Yes.
He's thrown for over 1,336 yards to be exact. He's got 9 touchdowns, so he knows how to sling the rock. You talk about having a confidence in your quarterback just to be able to throw the ball up to the receivers and let them, catch it. He's at a 66 percentage QBR for the year right now. And so Duke is going to try to counter that, though, AP. They have the best scoring defense in the ACC, and they've won their last 4 games this season by 1 possession. But at least they're winning, though. They're winning. They're coming out. They're going to try to do something very interesting because they have Malik Murphy. He's thrown for over 1,500 yards, AP. He's got 14 touchdowns. So the kid knows how to get the ball in the end zone. He's at a 59% QBR. He's going to have to get that up, get the interceptions down, maintain his confidence, and they should have a pretty solid game going on because he has, my prediction, I'm just going to say my prediction is that, SMU is going to come out firing, okay? Especially, they're 6-1, so I don't think they're going to try to give up that momentum that they have right now. They want to be one of the top teams in the ACC so that they can get their team into the playoffs. So we'll see how that works out. Those are my two, AP.
Those are your two. Okay, those are good ball games. I know Duke is playing at home. That'd be a fun game to watch with those. Malik Murphy, I'm very familiar with him because he was at Texas, big, strong, 6'5" or so quarterback from California. Sure.
Yes.
I guess my next game, I think it's Texas versus Vanderbilt. I believe that's the next ball game. If we can pop that up, there we are. And Doug, number 5 Texas versus, listen to this one closely, Doug, number 25 Vanderbilt.
Good job, Vanderbilt. Hey, give credit where credit is due, man. Hey.
I don't know when the last time they were ranked, Doug. It's been, I don't know. I can't recall myself. That's pretty impressive. Diego.
When you can sell your gold post for $100,000, man, you're doing something right.
Doing something right. Okay, we should all be so lucky, right? But that Diego Pavia, he's the lead Commodore for those Commodores. He's beaten 3 teams in his career. A couple when he was at New Mexico State where they were 20-plus point underdogs. So in this particular game, they're 18.5-point underdogs at home in Nashville. Texas, as we said, number 5. Doug, this series, who do you think owns this series, Doug? Just between Texas and Vanderbilt.
Texas.
You would say Texas, right? Doug,
all day.
They haven't played since 1928. Vanderbilt leads this series 8-3-1.
Nice trivia, AP.
They lead this series because they haven't played since 1928, I was told. But anyway, Texas, they coming off that loss to Georgia, 30-15. That was at home. Big loss for them. And Vanderbilt, they outlasted Ball State at home 24-14. I'm sure they were looking ahead. They just managed to beat Ball State by 10 points. I mean, when you put 40 on Alabama and you only score 24 against Ball State at home, you're looking ahead. Whether they admit it or not. But, Texas has all the big numbers, Doug. Defense, number 1 in the country. Scoring, number 1. Interceptions, 9. Sacks, 18. Total tackles for loss, 14. Total offense, 15. Pass offense, 16. Scoring offense, 17. And they're right at 51 in the turnover margin at 0.29. Vanderbilt, they have the inverted number, Doug. Total offense, 95. Pretty low, Doug. Pretty low. Scoring, Doug, number 35. 60 points ahead of their total offense. So they possess the ball. And they score points. They're very effective. Defensively, their scoring defense is at 51. So they're in the middle of most of their defensive statistics or above 50. Below on the path defense at 60. Turnover margin, very good, Doug. Number 17 in the country, 0.86. So Diego Pavia, big underdog again. I wouldn't sleep on Vanderbilt, Doug. I mean, they get a turnover or two, and they possess that ball, and Texas gets anxious on that sideline. That's when you make mistakes.
That's right.
As you know, you have a better team, but you're so frustrated by being on the sideline, you start forcing the issue. So that could happen. But Texas coming off that loss, their fans are not happy, of course, their coaching staff, players. But I wouldn't sleep on Vanderbilt, Doug. I just would not. I would not sleep on them.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to move on to the last game on the SEC schedule, Doug. Mizzou, ranked number 21, takes on Alabama in Tuscaloosa, number 15. Mizzou came back double-digit deficit to Auburn, 17-6, came back to win 21-17. There was a storybook ending. I guess Brady Cook was injured, went to the hospital, came back aboard, led his team to victory. So that was an interesting chapter in Mizzou football to have a quarterback come back from the hospital. Alabama's a 16.5-point favorite, Doug. That's a big number.
Yeah, it is.
And Alabama's coming off that loss to Tennessee, 24-17. Alabama's defense, you give up 24 points to Tennessee. I don't think that's an exorbitant amount of points. Tennessee has a lot of offense, even though they've been struggling. That's still a good number. You could win that ball game, but all of a sudden, Alabama turned the ball over a couple of times, only scored 17 points. In that game, Doug, Tennessee's quarterback did the same thing, a couple interceptions. It was some fumbles. So they went back and forth. Tennessee held on to win that game, went ahead 7-0 at halftime, Doug. Tennessee scored 24 points in the second half.
Right.
They just played better football.
Sure.
We know that Alabama 19th in scoring, defense very average, 59th in the country total defense. Interceptions 26. They're tied at 28 for turnover margin, as is Mizzou. They're both tied at number 28, Doug.
Yeah.
The turnover margin 0.57. So I think the game will be closer. I believe Alabama should win. It's homecoming. Everybody's not happy, but Doug, Mizzou is a team, they know how to win under Eli Drinkwitz. They haven't had the explosive amount of plays that they've desired because you have Luther Burden III, outstanding receiver, Brady Cook. That's a good combination, but it hasn't clicked as often and as well, I think, this year as it did last. But it should be a good ball game. I don't know if Alabama can win by more than 60. I think they will win. Probably a tight ball game, probably.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then let me just see. We got the buys. I can see the buys. We have the buys, Doug. It's going to be Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee. Georgia number 2 in the country. Tennessee number 7. So those are the buys. 9 teams in the Associated Press, Doug. 9 teams from the SEC in the top 25.
You gotta like that.
Yeah, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss, Mizzou, and Vandy.
Oh, outstanding. Hey, man, that's a powerhouse, man. I tell you, 9 teams in the pack in the AP top 25 is sensational. One other thing is about that game in Alabama is that the Alabama fans, AP, as you know, they're not accustomed to losing. And so they're a little bit uncomfortable right now, I must say, around Tuscaloosa. On the flip side, for the ACC, we have Florida State. Florida State, the only win that they have, AP, is coming from the beatdown that Cal Berkeley got down in Tallahassee. Now, let me tell you, the undefeated team, Miami Hurricanes, 7-0.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, these guys, Cam Ward and company. Cam Ward has thrown for, I couldn't believe it when I read the statistic today, over 2,500 yards passing on the year. And AP, did you know he had 24 touchdowns?
I didn't realize he had 24 touchdowns. I didn't realize that.
Era, but his QBR is 92.3. That says it all. This kid can flat out play, AP. He's dynamic. We talked about him last time. He's got a good offensive line. You can call him lucky or not, but Cam Ward has his Miami Hurricanes undefeated, and they're looking to be one of the 12 spots in the new playoff race that they have here. I'm gonna tell you something. Cam Newton's not the only Cam Newton. Cam Ward. He's not the only person that is dynamic on that offense. They have running backs Damian Martinez, who played well last game, Mark Fletcher, and Ajay Allen. They all 3 ran for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns on 30 carries combined. Now, the strategy worked last game for head coach Mario Cristobal. I'm telling you. So, look, they liked Fletcher in the second half, but in the first half, they rolled with A.J. Allen and Fletcher, but Martinez came in at the end, and he's a big guy. He just handled them, So I think they're going to try to keep that same strategy: run the ball, then get Cam out and let him do his thing. Florida State better buckle up here, AP. Buckle up your chin straps, because the Heisman hopeful is coming out to air it out once you try to stop that ground attack. So I'm looking forward to a great game between those in-state rivals. My second game is Georgia Tech, AP. Georgia Tech is 4-3. They play Virginia Tech, 5-3. AP, we have the battle of the Techs.
Of the Tech, engineering, right.
They're looking, the Hokies are looking to keep their momentum going, AP. So Georgia Tech is going to be looking forward to seeing them, because I don't want them to look past Clemson, or look past their opponent today in terms of getting they're getting above their in front of their skis, in other words. So some teams do that. They got a big team coming up the following week, and they overlook their current opponent. So, but if they can do that, they'll be riding high, and it'll be a sensational game. And like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about Clemson because Clemson has been playing lights out. So if you can get these two teams, get Georgia Tech to be, win these last two games and face Clemson, it's going to be a nice game. Now, we know that Virginia Tech loves to run the ball. They got Bayshul Tuden. Now, he has 871 yards this season. He has 12 touchdowns, AP. The kid knows how to get into the end zone. And then on the other side, we're looking at Kyron Drones. He has 1,319 yards passing and 9 touchdowns. Those two quarterbacks, man, it's going to be a really, really good game and very competitive. Now, the key is, can they do it against a valid opponent? So both of these teams need to come with their A game in order to make this interesting matchup tonight or this weekend. Now, you've kind of completed your list here. I'm going to rattle off this one here. This is North Carolina, 3-4 AP versus Virginia, that's 4-3. Now, similar to Cal Berkeley and other teams in the ACC, now the Tar Heels seek to end their 4-game losing streak. Now, that's kind of like saying 4-game losing streak. I mean, that's a similar song that we're singing in the ACC right now. AP, from a quarterback comparison, though, you got Anthony Calandria. He has 649 yards passing. He has 11 touchdowns, AP, which is pretty good, but he's got to keep down on the interceptions. Now, on the flip side, Jacoby Criswell, who you may know, has 1,367 yards passing. He has 8 touchdowns. But again, he has 3 interceptions, and those two players have to keep those touchdowns and turnovers to a minimum if they want to be competitive. Now, they're going to be throwing the ball to 2 dynamic wide receivers. UVA has Malachi Fields. He's got 606 yards passing already or receiving already, AP. And then UNC has J.J. Jones. He has 364 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns to go on with that. And if UNC wants to win this game, they got to step up defensively. They got to take ownership. And I'm a defensive guy. So they got to really take ownership and take some pride into defending the offensive that they are faced against. Because guess what? Having a team score like 70 points on you, it's just flat out embarrassing, AP. You can't have that, man. And so they have to maintain a low-scoring ball game. And my prediction is that Virginia will impose their will on North Carolina and come away with the victory. And next up, we have Pitt versus Syracuse, AP. Now, Syracuse is looking to rebound and come off a 3-game road trip, AP. That's a lot for one team. And I'm telling you right now, they're facing one of the most dynamic teams in the country right now with number 19, Pitt. Now, Pitt is 6-0. They're undefeated. They're vying for the playoffs. They want to be national champions, but Syracuse is definitely in the way, AP. Now, this is a pivotal game for Syracuse. They want to remain bowl eligible. They want to remain one of the top teams in the ACC. Syracuse seems to play their brightest under the biggest lights. And tonight on ESPN, they're going to be playing under the brightest lights for the country to see. So I'm looking forward to a sensational game between two teams that are really doing well this season. Now, I'll tell you, Kyle McCord, he's a good player. He has over 2,100 yards passing already this season. I like my chances, AP, that's saying that Syracuse Orangemen will beat the Pitt Panthers tonight under the bright lights. What are your thoughts, AP?
Yeah, the Syracuse quarterback, Kyle McCord, the transfer from Ohio State, that was a big move in the offseason. And then Pittsburgh is led by Eli Holstein, the quarterback, played high school ball in Louisiana. He transferred from Alabama. So both teams have excellent records. They're trying to contend to be in the title game of the Atlantic Coast Conference as well. They both should become bowl eligible this season. So two good teams in the ACC.
Absolutely, yes. And AP, to round everything off in the ACC, you got Stanford versus Wake Forest.
Yes.
Now, my old quarterback, Troy Taylor, better have his team ready, rocking and rolling, because Wake Forest Demons, they're going to be coming into town. Now, it's kind of interesting because a lot of those West Coast teams have been going east. Now, the East Coast team is going west to play at home in Stanford. Now, there's two interesting dynamics going on here. Stanford comes into the matchup, another 4-game losing streak. But they've lost by these significant margins, man, like 30 points a game, 40 points a game.
Struggling.
Yeah, that's deflating. So they have to come ready to play some defense, so to stop some of these teams stop the bleeding, But look, they have a bright spot. His name is Tiger Bachmeier. Look, he had a 90-yard return on special teams earlier in the season. They're going to have to lean on him. And it's quite interesting that his brother plays quarterback on the other team. So I'm looking forward to seeing Hank Bachmeier. He has over 1,713 yards this season. He has 9 touchdowns, so he knows how to get the ball in the end zone too. What a great night for the Bachmeier family, AP. Come on, man. You got 2 sons playing in college football. Gotta love it, man.
Yeah, playing each other. Yeah, for home, I think that's Stanford's homecoming, I believe.
Quite interesting.
Yeah,
that's all I got for you, AP.
Hey, it's another fun show. AP and DP, SEC, ACC conference coverage. We'll see y'all next week, and thank you for joining us. And check us on our YouTube page.
Thank you, AP. See you, everyone.